Welcome to Food Time and Garden for July 22nd update. We'll begin with July 12th. Oh my goodness, the hydrangea. I just love this plant. I have had it for many years. I keep pruning it back because it just gets ginormous. Hello, little paper birch tree seedling. Oh, one day you're going to be a beautiful bonsai. I hope. Who knows? I have no idea. I had a maple tree growing out in my yard from a seedling that I was tending to for about 7 years, and I tried to bonsai that and it just didn't take. So the paper birch tree sprouted up, and so did a couple of little cedar trees as well inside of this small clay pot, which in the fall, before snow, or just after the first snowfall, I will put it into a garbage can and just put the lid on it, and that's how I protect it from the winters. And it seems to do just fine in there, oddly enough. So fortunately for me, with the triple-digit temperatures that we have been experiencing here in northern Ontario, Canada, my eggplant have been just blasting in my recycle bin. Yes, I had an extra recycle bin that I put this plant in. One little eggplant inside my recycle bin, and the blooms, oh my goodness, the blooms. It has so much possibility until you'll see. The butternut squash on the upper deck corner is just happy as well. So far no blooms, but they are coming very soon. I have to restructure almost every other day so I can train it to go vertical. Let's take a little stroll down into the yard in where my permaculture bed is. 3 lovely squashes protected by plastic collars. And in where I have my hostas groupings, I had this plant that looked like a weed. I Googled Mr. Google Pants and asked, what is it? And he said, it's a weed. Well, I said to myself, Mr. Google Pants, I don't think that's a weed, so we're going to leave it here and see what happens. 2020 is a new beginning for me gardening wise. Usually I just yank it up if I think it's a weed, but this year, nope. This year I'm just leaving it be until I know exactly, is it a weed? Is it a plant? Something in my gut told me to leave it there, and I'm glad I did. I like to name my garden for many years now, the Garden of Hope. And, well, it's been difficult to hold on to the smiles and the hope as of late, because my pup passed away on July 13th. And for 17 years, she would follow me out in my garden every time I went outside. She and I were a complement to each other's shadow, so to speak. So you won't be seeing my pup out in my garden. And if you find this particular video a little strange, now you know why. What I find very interesting this year is the daylilies have continued to bloom for the last month, and they typically will only bloom once, and then the plant just sort of dies out from the heat. They're in a shady spot, but when it gets hot, they don't care for it very much. But oddly enough, I found this white container. It's a bucket, and the bottom had rotted out of it. And I thought, this daylily struggles with the heat, and I can't keep up with watering. And it's underneath a grouping of trees, so it gets sheltered from the rain when we do have rain. So I grouped it up in my hand, and I placed the bucket over top of the daylily. And then I put some leaves and whatnot around the base. And that way, when I water the daylily, it retains the moisture. And that was the secret to this plant for this year. By doing this, it has retained the moisture, and it is supplying me with continual blooms. So I'm glad I didn't just throw away that bucket that lost its bottom. Use those bottomless buckets. Hang on to those things. Recycle. Reuse. I just love my little traveling gnome and little piggy. They get moved around my garden about once a month. You never know where they're going to wind up. My container squash plants on the lower half of the deck are loving it. And I am also training them to go vertical, whether they like it or not. There is just something special about little treats in the garden that you can just pick fresh off the vine and enjoy while you are on chipmunk and squirrel guard, hoping that I will get to the strawberries before they do. Her pain became so bad that I could no longer brush her, and she had lost the majority of her teeth, and her eyesight was failing. It was time. She knew it, and she patrolled the area to find where she wanted to be, out in my garden. So, tribute to my pup. I didn't do very much from the 13th to the 17th of July, as you can, imagine. But July 17th was an unusual morning. I woke up early, as I usually do, and I went outside with my coffee, and there was the sun rising behind the clouds, the storm clouds, and the moon shining brightly. And as this music score's title says, continue life. And that's what this is. Life goes on. No matter what happens to us, life goes on, and it must continue. It's a path that we all have to walk. So I looked at these clouds and the brightness of the moon, and I found it amazing. And although the darkness of the clouds reflected how I was feeling, the moon gave me hope, the brightness, that the sun will come out, as the song also says, tomorrow, which it did. The sun came out, the storms passed, but not before they wreaked some havoc to my hydrangea. You'll see very shortly what happened to my beautiful hydrangea. As a gardener, I wonder at times, am I more excited about sowing the seeds, watching them sprout up out of the soil, or watching them grow? And once they grow, they flower. I take a lot of pleasure in seeing the different types of flowers from my plants. Yes, granted, I enjoy the harvest and I enjoy eating it, but this year I have really enjoyed watching the plants, learning from the plants. They have something to teach us, and patience is a big part of being a gardener, and failure, and learning how to adapt to different situations, given the chipmunks and squirrels and slugs and snails and all the things that we have to battle if you don't want to use pesticides, and the slugs and the blooms and the echinacea. The rain came and hammered my hydrangea. It was laying down saying, I quit, I quit, I quit. As soon as everything dries up, it will stand back up. I should have put some sort of tie around it. So I went out and looked at the garden, exploding from the fresh rain that comes from the sky when it opens up. And yeah, things just seem to grow so quickly. Here is the echinacea I planted about 3 years ago, and that's what got reseeded in the other part of my garden. But I just love this plant. Comes back year after year. It's a perennial, and this year it is loaded with blooms. I can't wait till they open up. They take their sweet time, and you have to be patient. But once they open, they stay there for a long time. So there was the remaining of the fencing I had for the front of my hostas garden that I was going to remove, which I did do later on in the week. I just wanted a little picture of like a before and after and all that netting and whatnot in my permaculture bed. I removed that, and I needed something different, and to put my plants up vertically, because the slugs were going, oh boy, she's supplying food at this restaurant. So I needed to do something differently. I wish I had cattle panels, I suppose. That would be perfect. I don't know what I would hook them to, because I need other things. So I have to MacGyver my way around this permaculture bed, and it's fun. It keeps my mind occupied and figuring out what I'm going to do, what stick I'm going to use, what branch I'm going to, use that I've saved. And oh my, that's the joys of gardening. I have yet to divide my hostas. I have till the end of this month to do it. I don't know if I'm going to be doing it this year. I am not really sure. There's the bucket I was telling you about earlier that had the bottom missing, and it just worked beautifully, except the slugs. Not so pretty. But, you got to deal with nature. did have quite the storm, and the humidity was so thick you could probably scoop it up with a spoon. The winds blew off my eggplant blooms. Yeah. I'm just hoping that there's a little tiny eggplant underneath there. They got pollinated by an insect or two. I can only hope. I mean, you can do what you can do, and then you gotta leave it up to Mother Nature. July 21st. The storm has passed. I've removed a lot of the fencing and put it to my permaculture bed. I put some trellises up to get my plants up off the ground and hopefully protect them and marvel at the beauty of the plant structure itself. I mean, I really don't know what I enjoy more. I really don't. I am enjoying the structure of plants this year. Maybe it's because I feel like with everything going on in the world that I need some kind of structure, stability, and I'm getting that from my plants. So I hope everyone is staying safe, enjoying their gardens, planting fall gardens, which I have started to do already. Yes, indeedy. I have started plans for my fall garden. I have onion butts, radishes coming up, spinach, my little cherry tomatoes. I removed my bush beans and I'm planting kohlrabi, lettuces, spinach in my garden truck. And then I transplanted my radish seedlings into my garden truck where I removed the bush beans because they had seen enough. They had had enough humidity, enough heat, and they had one final harvest, and I completely enjoyed them. And I will have some more for dinner tonight.